Did you know Celeste has Desides? If you have played through Celeste, you would probably be familiar with the game's original 9 chapters, often called the A-sides. All of these chapters have optional B and C sides, excluding chapter 9, aimed to be harder variants to challenge players who are looking for it. However, the game's lack of D-sides often leaves players wondering what a theoretical D-sides would look like for Celeste, and just how difficult could they get. Now realistically, you've probably already seen the D-sides. Even if you haven't played or seen much of modded Celeste, there's a good chance you've seen some form of D-sides related content on YouTube if you've watched Celeste content before. That's because the D-sides mod has undoubtedly had a huge impact on the Celeste modding community. Some of the most well-known and iconic parts of modded Celeste can be seen in the D-sides, from Enox's 70 Golden Strawberry completion to the absurdly long 300-room Final Goodbye chapter, also known as 90. So let's just talk about some of the most iconic mods that have shaped the community and modding scene, and also potentially answer the question as to what is the most iconic Celeste mod. I guess the D-sides are a great place to start because of what I mentioned. The D-sides pack by Monica dates back really far. All the way back in 2018, in the first year of the game's release and the infancy of Celeste mods, Monica created a D-side for the 8th chapter of the game, The Core. While I'm not too sure why it was this chapter that she started with, the mod got a little bit of attention for its difficulty, being harder than any other mod at the time, which isn't nearly as impressive as it may seem considering that very little people were actually making mods back then. Monica would expand upon the D-sides by creating a D-side for the Summit, which was often regarded the hardest Celeste chapter considering Farewell had not released yet. Monica also created a really weird Summit E-side. This map is pretty goofy. The final room is all the difficulty and it's only because the room drags on for like 6 minutes. Anyway, all these maps eventually got scrapped, now being present in the D-sides museum. Even in their earliest stages, D-sides became a somewhat well-known Celeste mod, with players like Jasper Liang and Enox making videos on YouTube about it that have some pretty respectable view counts today. The D-sides would receive its biggest update yet later in 2018, when Monica would make a D-side of every single chapter in the game at the time, along with majorly reworking 70 and 80. This mod quickly grew in popularity, with many praising the mod to feel reminiscent of the vanilla game, while also creatively innovating upon Celeste's gameplay in a way that felt distinct to Monica's own personal style. After the release of the Farewell DLC in 2019, the new harder Celeste chapter, Monica would begin work on a D-side for chapter 9, which would end up releasing later in 2020. During the wait for 90, Enox obtained the 70 Golden Strawberry, which amazed a ton of Celeste players, seen as just clearing 70 normally was considered to be near the skill ceiling of the game at the time.
Yes! 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 Oh my gosh! Yes! I did it! Oh my god!
By that point, all D-side Goldens excluding 90 had been obtained, with some players even having all Goldens done at once. The only chapter left standing is 90, which is being worked on by Parrotdash over on Twitch and YouTube. What's funny is that 90 was so insanely long that it was split up into 17 separate Goldens, with a Platinum Strawberry for doing the entire 2.5 hour map Deathless, which would be by far the hardest thing ever completed in the game. Alright, so, despite all of the popularity that this mod has amongst the community, I think its popularity is going to grow even more from here. Once Parrot obtains 90 Platinum, it's going to inevitably become an extremely well-known Celeste achievement. For all of these reasons, I think that the D-sides are an incredibly influential and iconic Celeste mod. If you go onto the Game Banana page for Celeste, the D-sides show up as the 3rd most downloaded custom map, having over 160,000 downloads. But if it's only the 3rd, then what are the other 2 mods above it? Well, the 2nd most downloaded mod is the 2020 Spring Collab, and I think I definitely have to mention it here. As you probably could have guessed, this mod released in 2020, and it instantly gained a ton of attention, largely from being the biggest mod in the game. This mod is a collab between over 100 people, containing 80 different short maps across 5 ranges of difficulty, spanning from early A-sides to levels of difficulty that surpass the D-sides by a huge margin. Because of its wide variety in difficulty, this mod was able to appeal to players of any skill level, whether you've just finished the game's main chapters and are looking for something chill to play, or if you want to challenge yourself and experience the hardest gameplay possible in Celeste. The Grandmaster lobby of Spring Collab became the most well-known and infamous for its sheer level of difficulty. Maps were measured on a green, yellow, and red scale, green indicating that the map was on the easier end of the lobby, and red being on the harder end. 2 maps in the Grandmaster lobby surpassed this 3-color system by literally cracking the difficulty meter, giving these maps the name Cracked Grandmaster. The 2 maps in question are Heart of the Storm and Ultra Difficult. These 2 maps, along with the Grandmaster Heartside, became pretty iconic in the community. These were the 3 hardest maps of the entire collab, and the type of gameplay these featured were insane for its time. HUDs and UD had a large emphasis on fast-paced speedrun tech such as Ultra Dashes and Jelly Back Boosts, creating for gameplay that was visually stunning. The Grandmaster Heartside, which served as a grand finale to the lobby, and by extension the entire collab, featured a flag representing every Grandmaster lobby map as a sort of final revisit to the lobby. A notably infamous section was Flag 2, a room which represented the map Heart of the Storm. This room had incredibly speedy Ultra Chains, along with the iconic Jelly Tornado. The Jelly Tornado essentially combines jellyfish and portals to gain speed by chaining back boosts in quick succession while teleporting between the portals. Nothing like this had ever been seen before in Celeste, and people were definitely not used to doing inputs like this, so GMHS Flag 2 was probably one of the hardest rooms at the time. Now all that aside, 2020 Spring Collab was still enjoyed by many casual players and was a very popular pick for a first mod. Oftentimes newer modded players would get recommended to start with Spring Collab Beginner Lobby, where they would work their way up through the lobbies or drop the mod if they reached a point that felt too hard for them. The huge amount of content in Spring Collab made it very appealing for Celeste players to try out, and the extremely difficult Grandmaster maps impressed the community in ways that had never been seen before, making the 2020 Spring Collab one of the most influential and iconic Celeste mods to be created, in my opinion. Now if this collab seemed huge to you, you would be right in thinking that. However, the next mod I will talk about is even bigger. I'm sure a lot of you would know what I am talking about, seeing as it is currently the single most downloaded Celeste mod ever made. That mod would be the Strawberry Jam collab, having over 800,000 downloads, 4 times more than that of Spring Collab. Really what holds this mod back from being the most iconic is how recent it is. Unlike the other mods which released quite a while back by now, Strawberry Jam released only last year, however it had begun being worked on just a couple months after Spring Collab was released, by over 350 different people too. SJ is the biggest Celeste project ever done, and will probably stay that way for a very long time. This mod got the most amount of hype after its official trailer was released onto YouTube, gaining over 500,000 views, which is genuinely insane for modded Celeste. This mod essentially became the newer version of Spring Collab, and for good reason too. All 111 maps in SJ are of such high production value, almost all of them surpass even the best standalone mods that existed in 2020 by quality. Just like in Spring Collab, the maps were arranged in difficulty, meaning that this mod again featured a difficulty curve that was very beginner friendly for newer modded players. However, unlike Spring Collab, the maps in this one got even harder for some reason. What would have been considered Cracked Grandmaster back in Spring Collab was listed as only around Yellow Grandmaster difficulty. SJ also had its own Cracked GM maps, which get so insane in difficulty they managed to comfortably make their way into the Grandmaster Plus range. Seriously though, half the rooms in Pinball Purgatory took me more time than vanilla B-side Goldens, it's that insane. The Heartsides in this mod are often praised as being some of the best modded content in Celeste, and I'd say I partially agree. Without spoiling too much, I will say that the Expert and Grandmaster Heartsides are an incredibly cool experience to go through the first time, even despite being brutally difficult. SJ improved upon literally everything from Spring Collab, from the art, gameplay, lobbies, custom mechanics, music. Oh yeah, there's over 9 hours of custom made music for this mod, with all of it sounding amazing. To summarize, SJ gets its popularity from its insane level of quality. While Strawberry Jam may be the biggest and most popular mod, can you really say it's the most iconic? Sure, it has the most downloads, however the amount of time that the Desides have existed have most certainly caused more exposure to the casual Celeste audience. So let's go back to the Desides for a little bit then. Celeste has plenty of other older mods that follow a similar theme to the Desides. These mods include things like the Farewell B and C side, Celestial Resort L side, and Farewell E side, the most beautifully made map in Celeste. Also, an honorable mention towards 7D1D and D1D7. Both of these mods derive from 7D in their own way. 7D with Single Dash, or 7D1D for short, is a really old map created by Fish Tank that features a buffed and single dash version of 7D, and D1D7 is a reverse version of 7D1D, where you play from the top of the mountain and make your way down to the bottom. D1D7 in particular is well known as being one of the hardest maps for Celeste, mostly from the 2 Parrot Dash videos. If you haven't seen the videos though, D1D7 features an infamous room called 2K3, which has multiple pixel perfect gaps and ends with a 0.15 subpixel precise gap. Pretty bonkers stuff, I think. The amount of pain and dedication taken to beat a room like this must be astounding. Yes! Yes! But even these 2 mods would not have existed without the Desides, which truly does show the influence that they have had on the community. With all that said, I do think that Monica's Desides are the most iconic mod in Celeste. Sure, Spring Collab and Strawberry Jam may have higher download counts, but the amount that the Desides have influenced, inspired, and shaped the Celeste community is what makes me think that they are the most iconic mod in the game. Anyway, thanks for watching me talk about Celeste for 12 minutes, I guess.